Republicans and Democrats team up to pass the debt ceiling deal. Blank you, America. Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends, they had to twist a lot of arms, and ultimately Republicans, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in particular, needed Democrats to ride to the rescue. But when everything was said and done, it wasn't even close. The Uniparty, the Empire, strikes back. So yesterday they finally voted, final vote, on the deal to raise the debt ceiling, and it was a bloodbath. A lot of conservatives defected, God bless them. The rebels defected. There were even some principled members on the left who fought off the Democratic leadership, but in the end, 141 Republicans voted for it, and believe it or not, even more Democrats voted for it, 165 Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, said he was going to give McCarthy all of the support he needed to ram through the deal he forged and crafted with Dementia Joe. And so when everything is said and done, the vote last night, 314 to pass, yes, 117 no against. And now the bill heads to the Senate, where it's almost guaranteed to get passed there, and Biden will sign. So what the House passed yesterday and what the Senate now, barring some kind of a miracle, is going to pass either today or tomorrow is as follows. We are now going to extend the debt limit to January 1st, 2025. In other words, after the election. There's no amount that they have put on the limit for the debt ceiling. That's something they've never done before. Usually they give you an amount. 1.5 trillion, 2 trillion, 3 trillion, whatever. We're going to raise the debt ceiling so much. No. Not this time. This time, they just extended the date. So, in theory, they could rack up 4 trillion, 5 trillion, 8 trillion, 10 trillion. They could rack up literally $100 trillion. They won't. But I'm just saying, in theory, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So it looks like they're going to raise the debt ceiling. In all, they're projecting over 20 months, $4 trillion. We are currently now at 31.7 trillion. We've now hit that limit. They're going to raise it at least 4 trillion and change. So in 20 months, we are going to have a total national debt. I'm not talking about the unfunded liabilities, entitlements, which is into the hundreds of trillions. I'm just talking what we owe. $36 trillion. With a T. 36 trillion. And so, you want to talk about spending us into oblivion. You want to talk about unsustainable. You want to talk about bankrupting the United States. And so, lifting the debt limit to now 36 trillion. What did we get in exchange? Minor spending caps this year on non-defense discretionary spending. Non-defense discretionary spending caps next year. In other words, very limited increases, a little bit of restraint in spending this year and next year. But overall, we are spending more than we ever have in the history of the United States. The post-COVID level spendings have been frozen in place. So we're spending now. We're not going to pre-COVID. We're spending more now than we ever have. Furthermore, they got work requirements for people 49 to 54. If you take food stamps, supplemental nutrition, the SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So they got a few dinky work requirements thrown in there. and 98% of the 87,000 IRS agents that were funded remain intact. So, in essence, we got peanuts. We got peanuts, we got crumbs off the table in exchange for lifting the debt at least another $4 trillion. And only in the swamp, only in Washington, D.C., can you come up with such a horrendous deal and they give you a freaking standing ovation. Kevin McCarthy yesterday, before last night's historic vote, met with the Republican conference, and the majority of them stood up, and I'm not kidding, they gave Kevin a standing O, a standing ovation. Yeah, Kevin, you did it, Kevin. And he's pumping his fists, waving his hands, like Churchill after World War II. We did it. We did it. V for victory. We did it. And Kevin's blowing them kisses, and the conference is blowing him kisses. Listen now to McCarthy. After last night's historic vote, he's crowing, he's celebrating. As he puts it, this is a great deal for Republicans, for taxpayers, for conservatives, for America. Roll cut 22. Mike.
On February 1st, I got my first meeting with the president. I've been thinking about this day before my vote for Speaker, because I knew the debt ceiling was coming. I wanted to make history. I wanted to do something no other Congress has done. That we would literally turn the ship.
Yeah.
That for the first time in quite some time, we'd spend less than we spent the year before.
Yeah.
Tonight, we all made history.
Yeah.
Because this is the biggest cut and savings this Congress has ever voted for. And it's not that we're just voting for it. This is going to be law. $2.1 trillion.
I swear, I'm sorry either you laugh or you cry. I just want to laugh. I can't think. You want to talk about bull crap. Oh, you know what I really want to say. You want to talk about bull, you want to talk about BS. Holy, can you pile it this high? Like, seriously, even by Washington standards, even by inside the Beltway standards, holy shamoli. So it adds $4 trillion to the debt. Only in Washington is adding $4 trillion in 20 months, in a year and a half. And they're like, this is historic. Oh, the savings. So they play these games about, projecting spending 10 years out, 15 years out, 20 years out. And they go, well, with the way we've done it now, instead of adding 20 trillion to the debt, we're adding 18 trillion to the debt over 10 years. That's $2.1 trillion in savings. That's like saying your house you're spending $1 million more than what you take into your house. You're going broke. And you say, maybe we'll go 1.5 million more. And someone says, no, we really can't. Let's do 1.3 million. Okay. Well, look at the savings. Look at the savings. We're spending $200,000 less. No. You were spending $1 million more than what you had. Now you're spending $1.3 million more than what you had. How the hell are you saving? You're not saving a damn thing. Hakeem Jeffries told McCarthy, don't worry. If the conservatives rebel, we have your back, and they came in big. As I said, even more Democrats than Republicans voted for the bill. My friends, let me tell you something. This is an iron rule of life, okay? An iron law. When you have something that's bipartisan, when you have the establishment Republicans and the establishment Democrats in full solidarity, in full unity and full agreement, we are getting screwed. The peasants get screwed. And that's exactly what this bill does. This is a deal of the swamp, by the swamp, for the swamp. Listen now to McCarthy when asked, but the House Freedom Caucus, the rebels, the conservatives, those who you promised you would defund, rescind all of the 87,000 IRS agents, that you would make real cuts in spending, $4 trillion worth of cuts, and you betrayed them on everything. They're voting against you. What? How much time left? Okay, I'm going to play it on the other side. He's asked, point blank, you betrayed the House Freedom Caucus. You betrayed many fellow conservatives. McCarthy gives his answer, and you got to hear it to believe it. My friends, two questions. What do you make of the debt ceiling bill, the legislation now that passed? The plan has now passed the House. It's on its way to the Senate. Like, no like? And is it time to oust and get rid of Kevin McCarthy? Your calls next. 21 on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, my friends, very special day today here at iHeart. It's iHeartRadio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences today only. Seeing Lionel Richie and Earth, Wind, and Fire on tour. Digitize your printed photos for 76% off the regular price with Legacy Box. Spending the day with Dan Patrick and the Danettes in the Man Cave. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Okay, listen now to Kevin McCarthy. He was crowing. Oh, man. I mean, you'd think he became president of the United States last night. This was the crowning achievement of his life. It's what he dreamed about when he won the speakership, to be able to go toe-to-toe with Joe Biden, to negotiate a deal to lift the debt ceiling, add $4 trillion minimum to the national debt in 20 years. But hey, he's saving us money. And when asked about the principled conservatives, the House Freedom Caucus members, almost all of whom voted against this abomination last night, listen to McCarthy's response. Roll cut 23, Mike.
How do you get this done without those 35 votes?
We'll get it done overwhelmingly. Look, people have different opinions. Before this, I had 17 Republicans who have never voted for a debt ceiling, period. To govern is not easy, but I don't want to be on the wrong side of history. Every single one of those members who vote no will miss the opportunity to vote for the largest cut in American history.
Can you get it done without them?
Oh, yeah, we'll get it done without them. That's not
You'll get enough Democrats to come on board?
Look, the president came to an agreement. I think from that point is we found every time you've ever had two agreements made like that, both sides come together, and what happens as one of the other side comes on, some people will fall off because they think it's a free vote that way. But you know what? When are you going to get work requirements on welfare? When are you going to be able to cap what the president can spend for regulations on a pay-go system that he has to offset that? That would have saved us $1.5 trillion.
Yeah. Well, boy, the way you're saving us money, please stop. Hey, stop saving us so much money, Kevin. You phony, you fraud, you. You know, this is history in the making. No, this is stabbing your voters in the back in the making. That's what this is. You little rhino weasel. So, what, and by the way, these work requirements for welfare. No, there aren't work requirements for welfare. You're on Medicaid? You don't have to work. You collect a welfare check. You don't have to work. All it does is, I don't want to get too much into the weeds. COVID is now over. So all of the states that have work requirements, if you receive food stamps or SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, they have work requirements built into the states. And the only thing McCarthy did was he said, well, the states say you got to have it, you have for 18 to 49 years old. So if you're able-bodied with no children, 18 to 49 years old, you get food aid, food assistance. You need to either get a job or get into a work program. He raised it from 49 to 54. So it's 18 to 54 instead of 18 to 49. That's it. Like, that's it. Literally, that's it. It's like, oh, this is historic. No, it isn't. So, now, why was he grinning like a Cheshire cat? I'll tell you why. Because it's pretty obvious. He made a deal with Biden behind closed doors. And he made a deal with Hakeem Jeffries. And now, only after they pass it, do we know what this deal is. Because you didn't think Jeffries and the Democrats would give him 165 votes. They saved his bacon on this. McCarthy has allowed for a slush fund. There is a slush fund in the debt ceiling deal, which allows the Democrats to use money that's called community funding projects. Democrats can take that money and pour it into heavily Democrat districts. In other words, use taxpayer money, billions and billions and billions of it, to buy votes in blue Democrat districts. That's what the Democrats got on top of everything else. And these guys are telling us it's time to pop the champagne corks. No. McCarthy betrayed us. 6:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, they did it last night. They rammed it through the House, the debt ceiling plan. It's now going to the Senate. In fact, it wasn't even close. Many conservatives did vote against it. Several principled liberals did as well. But the overwhelming majority, the establishment Democrats, establishment Republicans came together and they passed the debt ceiling deal 314 to 117. Majorities, frankly, in both parties passed it. To me, that's the problem right there in a nutshell. Now, just very quickly, because I want to go to the phone lines, 617-266-6868. There's actually a couple lines open if you want to jump on. There were some surprises. So, Chip Roy, congressman from Texas, to me deserves a medal. He's the one that should get a standing ovation. He has held the line against this debt deal. He has been extremely outspoken. Lauren Boebert, you have many of them. Dan Bishop from North Carolina, congressman, one after another. They have come out and really exposed the deal for the sham that it is. And as if they all pointed out, it does nothing to roll back the Green New Deal. Absolutely nothing. Spending actually goes up over the next couple of years. Not much, but it does go up from the historic levels under Biden right now. 98% of the IRS agents remain intact. So McCarthy violated his fundamental promise to repeal and rescind $80 billion, all of it, for 87,000 new IRS agents. And it doesn't cut spending. It doesn't even restrain spending. They're going to add minimum $4 trillion to the national debt. $4 trillion in 18 or 20 months. So how these people can say this is a win is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. Now, veteran conservatives, some of them did vote for the deal, and it's raising eyebrows. Jim Jordan, who usually is, House Freedom Caucus guy, usually tough on spending, fiscally responsible, a fiscal hawk. Jim Jordan voted for the deal. Thomas Massey, who's normally excellent on these issues, from Kentucky, and frankly, I like him a lot, he surprisingly voted for the deal. Tom McClintock from California, a big House Freedom Caucus guy, usually superb on these issues, he also voted for the deal. Marjorie Taylor Greene, and, you know, I think she's been superb on these impeachments of Biden, on the January 6ers. But on this one, I don't know what happened to MTG, but Marjorie Taylor Greene voted for the deal. Frankly, to me, a disappointment. So there were some surprises, but overall, conservatives voted against it, and it made no difference because the Democrats were bought off with a slush fund inside the debt ceiling plan that now allows them to spend billions and billions of dollars in quote-unquote community funding projects in primarily Democrat districts, meaning they can buy votes. It's a slush fund for the Democrats to spend in their own districts. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And if you want to talk about Orwellian, you know what they labeled the bill last night that they passed? I swear to you, you can't make this up if you wanted to. The Fiscal Responsibility Act. This is not what they're calling this debt ceiling plan, this deal. The Fiscal Responsibility Act. You mean adding $4 trillion to the national debt in 20 months is fiscally responsible? Keeping 98% of the 87,000 new IRS agents, which will target you, me, and upper middle, and working class Americans, that's, quote, fiscally responsible? No, this is the Fiscally Irresponsible Act. Or if you really want to name it what it is, the Blank You America Act. That's what this is. Listen now to Mitch the Squish. McConnell was glowing. Schumer was glowing. The swamp glowing. This was a big deal for them, saying they got what they wanted and they're going to pass this thing quick. Listen now to Mitch McConnell saying it's now going to come to the Senate, and don't worry, Chucky and I have the whole thing laid out. We're going to get this thing done to the president within 48 hours. Roll cut 21. Mike.
House Republicans' unity gave them the upper hand. They used it to secure a much-needed step in the right direction. When this agreement reaches the Senate, I'll be proud to support it without delay.
There you go. He's proud. Not is he going to support it? He's proud to support it without delay. You know what they did yesterday? They just rearranged the chairs on the Titanic. That's all they did. That's it. They just literally rearranged the deck chairs on the Titanic. That's it. And the music is playing, and they're celebrating and patting each other on the back and popping champagne corks, and we're going straight for that iceberg. Because 32 trillion is almost impossible. 36 trillion is insurmountable. Never mind 40, 45, 50 trillion, which is exactly now the path that we're on. And if we're going to default, then let's do it now. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Do it now. It's better to do it now. By the way, you don't even need to default. Just start getting your economic house in order, but they can't do that. But if you're going to default, then do it now while we can still control what to cut, what not to cut, what to keep, what not to keep. But if you keep waiting and waiting, as they're waiting and waiting, kicking the can down the road, then you know who's going to do it for us? It'll be communist China. It'll be foreign creditors. It'll be banks, globalist banks, and financial institutions. It's going to be ugly. Absolutely ugly. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Should Kevin McCarthy be ousted and replaced? Is it time now for McCarthy to go? Was this a massive betrayal? Did he sell us out? Did he sell conservatives, his voters, Republicans, and his base out? He promised us he would rescind, repeal 87,000 new IRS agents. He lied. This deal doesn't do that. Only 1 year. Cuts $2 billion from the IRS budget, so they can't do these crazy audits this year. Next year, we have to be at it again to see if we can claw back some more money. So, all he got was a 1 year reprieve. And he said he was going to cut spending and start putting our fiscal economic house in order. It does not do that. It adds easy $4 trillion to the national debt. So, has he now shown himself to be an incompetent, unprincipled rhino who broke his promise to conservatives and to the voters? And is it time for Kevin to go? Surprisingly, there are now many conservatives in the Republican Party, in the conference, many on the House side, the rebels, who say it's time for McCarthy to go. And now many of them are in talks to see if they will push forward with a plan to hold what's called vacate the chair, a vote of non-confidence in McCarthy, and see if there's a challenger who will emerge to replace and succeed him. So there's a lot of intrigue going on behind the scenes. McCarthy is trying to battle this back. He's trying to push back these brush fires. We'll see if he's successful. My question to you, what do you make of the deal? And is it time to get rid of Kevin McCarthy? I say yes. What do you say? All of your calls next. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, my friends, it's iHeart Radio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences today only. Meet up with Ryan Seacrest in Vegas at our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Game Time is giving you $20 off tickets to the hottest shows and games of the summer, and have Chef Tyler Florence prepare a meal for you. All of this and so much more. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com, iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Okay. Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Should Kevin McCarthy be ousted and replaced in the wake of this, to me anyway, disastrous debt ceiling deal? Yes or no? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner, or if you prefer, you can vote via Twitter. Our handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUH, and as in Nancy, ER. Good deal, bad deal. The House passed it yesterday. The Senate's going to pass it either today or tomorrow. Biden will sign it by the weekend. And Kevin McCarthy, did he betray us? And is it time for him to go? Or am I being too hard on him? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Russ in Jamaica Plain. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Russ.
As a liberal Democrat, I never agree with you until now. I think your analysis is just about spot on. I think this is a bad deal for the country. And honestly, I was really hoping that the Republicans were going to hold the line and not pass this deal. Because we as a nation have to have a serious conversation about our spending habits, our taxing policy. I mean, we have a debt. No one really knows the real amount. Is it, 32 trillion? Is it 35 trillion? Who knows? And we keep piling it on. I mean, the situation is so bad, as far as I know, my understanding is we're not even paying down on the principal of the debt. All we do is we're paying off the interest. I mean, this is just not sustainable, and I honestly think I was hoping that the Republicans were going to rally and, for once, say, no, let's see what happens. It could be disastrous, but I think we need to have a conversation about how we spend money in this country. And I think everything that you said, I think, it's pretty much spot on. The only thing that I would add is, we got to look at our spending habits, but I think we also have to look at our tax policy and how we tax corporations, how we tax the wealthy. I think that should have been part of the whole package. Other than that, I think you were spot on.
Russ, I want to thank you for your call. And I got to tell you, we have a lot of liberal trolls who call in. They're not really serious callers. They're just trying to be provocative and be insulting and not add anything to the conversation. To have a smart, intelligent, well-read liberal like you call in, you have no idea how much I appreciate it. So, Russ, A, thank you for the call. And B, please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Thank you, Russ. 617-266-6868. So, yeah, no, I mean, look at Russ. I mean, he's right. I mean, maybe even on taxes. I don't know. I don't like some of these woke corporations. I'm tired of defending them all the time. I mean, I defend their actions, but defend the fact that they don't get their taxes raised. Like, why shouldn't Target pay a little more? I don't care. Like, I'm just giving an example. Like, if corporate America is going to sell us down the river with this woke agenda, and we're defending them, why? Like, and by the way, these are the same clowns that go in front of these congressional committees, all these CEOs. Oh, we should pay more. Our tax rates are too low. Okay, well, if you want to pay more, hey, nothing is stopping you. You can always write a check to the IRS, but no, you want to pay more? Maybe we'll throw that into the deal as well. So we'll raise taxes on these big corporations and on these billionaires and then on these globalists, and we'll cut some spending too, and finally start to get our debt and our deficit under control. So, but anyway, I appreciate the call, Russ. 617-266-6868. That's what I mean. A lot of people in the country realize we're going off a fiscal cliff. Now maybe the solutions we maybe differ on a little bit, but they realize this can't continue. This can't go on. As I said, we're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. I don't know what these people are congratulating themselves for. 617-266-6868. I just want to read this really good email. Jeff, I'm disgusted. Kevin McCarthy is as useless as a lawnmower on AstroTurf. I'm old enough to remember when the GOP were the fiscally responsible party. He needs to be ousted. Amen. Amen. I like that. He's as useless as a lawnmower on AstroTurf. I mean, he practically had tears yesterday, like tears of joy. You should have seen him. That's what I was dreaming of when I became speaker, to cut a deal like this. He loves the attention. He loves the limelight. He loves being across the table from the president, and it's just him and Biden and all these reporters, and Kevin now is so important. And in his mind, he's on the front page of every newspaper, and I don't know what kind of inferiority complex he's dealing with, but for him, he's the glam boy now. He's got the glamour, he's got the attention, Everybody's talking about him while he's just selling us right down the river. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dennis in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Dennis, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff. Greetings.
Hi.
Jeff, I know what I'm going to say is conjecture, and I don't want to hear anybody say that this couldn't happen. But if I were China, I would buy up as much debt that I knew you couldn't pay up at one time. Then I would move my war machine, my Navy, off your western coast. Then I'd send my political entourage to Congress and to the Supreme Court, and I'm going to demand payment in full. I don't want your money. I want real property for the debt. I want you to surrender California, Oregon, and Washington State for the debt that you owe me. What say you?
Well, Dennis, look, I don't think that's going to happen now, but what you're proposing is not far-fetched. I'll give you an example. Greece, this was maybe about 10 years ago. Greece, similar to what we are now, was spending so much money. They were so out of control, spending more than their entire economy. Their debt was bigger than their entire GDP. And so the country essentially went bankrupt. Well, who bought up most of Greece's debt? It was Germany. And the Germans came in and said, no, we're not just going to take your promises, you're going to pay us back. We want collateral. And you know what they wanted as collateral? Greece has beautiful islands, like gorgeous in the Mediterranean. Big tourism spot for a lot of people. They said, some of your best, most beautiful islands, hand them over to us. Hand them over to us. We're going to hold them until you pay us back. And this so wounded Greece's national pride and honor. It was one of the main reasons why they started to cut spending, implement what they called austerity measures, and started to get their house in order. But the point is, the Germans were about to gobble up some of Greece's most beautiful islands. Now, so it's not out of, what you're talking about is not out of the realm of possibility. The problem is the Chinese don't that much of our debt yet. They own a lot, but not that much. No, if I were them, Dennis, I'd do it slightly differently. I would keep buying up our debt. And by then you have so much leverage over us that if they invade Taiwan, what are we going to do? Defend Taiwan? All Beijing has to say to us is, okay, pay us back. We own your debt. We're calling in our chips. Pay us back. They can bankrupt us like this. So what we're doing now is we are making ourselves utterly dependent and vulnerable, not just to foreign powers, but to our most mortal adversary and enemy, Communist China. Dennis, I'm going to tell you straight. Our children will never pay this off. Ever. They're now not just mortgaging the futures of our children. Now they're mortgaging the futures of our grandchildren. My Ashton and my Ava are going to have this on their backs for the rest of their lives. The only question now is, will their children, who I hope to see, God willing, one day, my potential future grandchildren, will they have this on their backs? That's how bad the situation is. And these guys are patting themselves on the back and saying it's time to give us an award. And they're calling this the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Only in Washington can saying we're going broke is responsible. Only in Washington. So, Dennis, I take it you're a no on the deal, and I take it you want McCarthy ousted.
Exactly. I really do. No more debt. No more. If we don't start paying it off, we're going to end up, our creditors are going to part this country out like a pizza.
You got it. You nailed it. I like that analogy. They're going to slice us up like a pizza pie. Dennis, thank you very, very much for that call. That's why I keep saying, get our house in order before it's too late. 617. Like, honestly, would you ever run your house like this? I wouldn't. I couldn't imagine running my house like this. 617-266-6868. Rob in Kingston. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I just heard you a little while back. Tax Target. Jeff. You know what happens when they tax Target? I pay that. There's 3 ways they're going to get us. Tax us. They're not going to do that because they like to run for office. Tax Target, so Target taxes us. And, well, they want to do that. And then, of course, printing it, and we know they've been doing that. McCarthy, all them, Jeff, they're all together. You know they're all together. It doesn't matter if you get rid of McCarthy, the next one's going to jump in the line. What you should be concerned about, what I'm concerned about, is they want to take the dollar, Jeff. I know it sounds crazy, but what else does everything point to? I mean, $36 trillion in debt. BRICS is on the rise. Everyone's going to gold. We don't have any. They shut down the dollar tomorrow, and they do what Obama's always dreamed of, taking America down a couple notches and basically turn us into Chicago like the rest of the world is. I mean, I kind of see that as the plan. What do we do to protect the dollar?
No, look, Rob, it's not speculation. This is the Great Reset. I mean, literally, that's what the World Economic Forum says. That's the ultimate goal, is to destroy the dollar as the world's reserve currency. And you mentioned these countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, BRICS, as they're known. They're creating their own rival world currency. And, you know, Donald Trump is on this issue is 1,000% correct. He is. If we lose our standing as the world's currency, it'll be one of the greatest disasters for the United States economically in hundreds of years. You're right. It would turn us into a third world country almost overnight because we're such a massive debtor nation. The only reason why people keep lending us money is because of our dollar and the fact that our dollar is the world's currency. But once we lose that, our creditors are going to look at us like any other country in the world. And they're going to look and say, it's time to start paying back, like pay back now. And we're already paying so much interest on the debt. Soon, very soon, to show you how bad this is, we're going to be paying as much interest on the debt as we pay for our entire military budget, which is about $800 to $900 billion a year. $800 to $900 billion a year. In fact, in a couple years, our interest on the debt is going to be $1 trillion. $1 trillion. We're not paying anything down. That's just the interest. So this is how out of control this is. I'm not trying to press people. It's Thursday, but I'm just telling you that's the situation that we're in. So you're completely right. They want a digital currency. In the end, let me tell you what the end goal is. They want a cashless society. They want a digital currency because this is what China wants. It's what the World Economic Forum wants. It's what Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, the globalists, Soros want, because once they get us on a digital currency, they can impose the social credit system. It's all about power and control. And that's why you collapse the economy. It's the Cloward-Piven strategy. Collapse us, overwhelm us from within. Well, how better to do that than just keep piling up trillions and trillions in debt, rack up the national debt, have runaway deficits, runaway spending, massive inflation. That's another thing nobody's talking about. If we're going to add another $4 trillion, my God, to the national debt, how much more money is the Federal Reserve going to have to print? So you think inflation is bad now? It's just going to keep getting worse. So you, me, the middle working class, we're the ones that are getting destroyed by this because the value of what we make, the dollar, gets less and less and less. It gets diminished. We have less to buy. The value of our dollar is less. So everything costs more. So, no, Rob, you're dead on. This is a war on the middle working class of the country. It's ultimately a war on the dollar. It's ultimately a war on our republic. That's why we have to hold the line. And that's what I kept urging McCarthy. You've got Biden over a barrel. The guy didn't negotiate for nearly 100 days. So if there's a default, you just turn on. It's on you, man. Hey, Joe, 100 days. You didn't even want to sit down to negotiate. I'm sorry. If there's a default, it's on you, Joey. And the first thing I would have done, 87,000 IRS agents gone. Gone. I want that completely rescinded now. If not, I'm walking away. Well, you're going to get blamed for the default. Yeah, I may get blamed a little bit, but you, Joe, are going to you're going to bear the brunt of the blame. And I'm telling you, Biden would have caved. Of course he would have caved. He knows if there's a default, he'd be the first president this would happen under, could trigger a recession. He would be blamed by the public, politically would finish him. I mean, to me, at least if they got rid of the 87,000 IRS agents, I would say, okay, we got something. Okay, we're adding $4 trillion more, which sucks. But at least, okay, we undid some of the damage. Because make no mistake about it, Rob, the IRS is coming after you. They're coming after me. They're coming after conservatives. They're coming after the middle working class. They're not going after the rich. They've got all the tax attorneys. They've got all the accountants in the world. Their job is to pay the least amount of possible legally. So the audits 5 times happen more often to middle class people than they do to the rich. 5 times. They got enough IRS agents to audit the rich if they want to audit the rich. They come after us. You know why? Because I can't afford 2, 3, 4 tax lawyers. If they come after me, I just, okay, how much more you want me to pay? I can't fight them in court. You can't fight them in court. That's why those IRS agents had to go. And McCarthy couldn't even do that for us. So I look at him and I'm like, you're useless, man. You're just utterly useless. If I came back with a deal this bad, I swear to you, Rob, I'd be hanging my head in shame. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. This guy's taking a victory lap and he's telling everybody now he's Superman.
Jeff, we got to stay ahead of them a little bit on this. I think on everything, but they're blowing up the system. That's for sure. The dollar's going down. That's for sure. Okay, where are they putting their money? They're not going to be poor. They know it's coming. They're buying tangibles, Jeff. You look at San Francisco, pennies on the dollar. New York, pennies on the dollar. Everywhere, pennies on the dollar. They're going to foreclose on that guy because he can't handle inflation. They're going to buy his house too. They're buying tangible. And dollar crashes. They own all the property. Look at what's Jamie Dimon buying right now? What's Barack Obama buying right now? What's Bill Clinton buying right now? Okay, other than carbon credits to sell to you for $65. What are they buying? And that's what we got to look at. Where's that? They know it's coming. They're doing it. What are they buying? And let's take a good hard look at that.
Oh, I agree.
And my suggestion is you got to go local. I mean, it's like all politics are local, so is everything else.
I agree.
You take a look at your town, your city. Where's every federal dollar going? Who's getting it and who's buying what?
Rob, super quick. You think McCarthy, should he stay on or is it time for him to go?
Well, Jeff, again, I don't want to think about McCarthy because I don't think we can change him. I want to think about Clark. I want to think about Warren. I want to think about, you know what I mean, the ice cream man. I want to think about Seth. I want them all gone. And until people start feeling the pain, and they're going to feel the pain overnight on this, we got to go local. I mean, you got to go local. And you. Interesting.
No, interesting. Rob, really, really interesting call. Thank you so much. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, they passed the debt ceiling plan. It's done. What do you say? Okay, it's iHeartRadio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences today only. Attending a live broadcast of The Herd with Colin Cowherd. 50% off tickets and passes at 5 SeaWorld and Busch Garden Parks nationwide. A trip for 2 to our 2024 iHeartRadio Alter Ego concert in LA. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com, iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Okay, my friends, super quick. Listen now to Congresswoman Nancy Mace, South Carolina Republican. She was on the War Room with Steve Bannon. She voted against that monstrosity yesterday, the debt ceiling plan, the debt ceiling deal that passed, by the way, the House, actually 314 to 117, with a majority of Republicans and Democrats backing it. Listen to what she says, why she's not supporting the deal. Roll cut 27, Mike.
The American people were spoon-fed a bed of lies about this bill. And even members of our conference were, it does not do what the American people are told it does. And that is, as a first woman to graduate from the Citadel, we were told not to lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. And I just can't go along. It's not right. It's not what the American people want.
That's what's so shocking. When you first came out, you said, I read it twice and I'm a hard no. Mm-hmm. That shocked people. Because most people would think you're pretty closely aligned to leadership.
Well, I'm sort of small L libertarian. I'm fiscally conservative. I socially am sensible. And some people call me a moderate. I say centrist. But I've always been fiscally conservative. And when I read it, and I read the fine print, it's literally not worth the paper it's printed on.
I agree. Bobby and I agree. To me, I don't know how in good conscience you say you want to stop the runaway spending. It doesn't do that. You say you want to start cutting spending. It doesn't do that. In fact, it's going to add at least $4 trillion to the national debt. You say you want to repeal the 87,000 new IRS agents, which will now become almost like a tax police for the Biden regime to go after their opponents. It only, shaves off $2 billion for this year. That's it. So we're going to have 85,000 IRS agents instead of 87,000 IRS agents. I mean, it's a betrayal and a surrender on issue after issue after issue. So bad. Listen now to this. Another conservative Republican who voted against the debt deal last night, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, so-called, is Colorado Congressman Ken Buck. In fact, we've had him on the show before. Listen now to Ken Buck saying, if I were McCarthy, I'd be worried because he may lose his job. Roll cut 29, Mike.
So you heard the speaker say to my colleague Manu Raju there that he is not at all concerned about any potential threat to his leadership following this agreement, which you oppose. Should he be concerned?
Yeah, I think he should be concerned. I'm not suggesting that the votes are there to remove the speaker, but the speaker promised that we would operate at 2022 appropriations levels when he got the support to be speaker. He's now changed that to 2023 levels plus 1%. That's a major change for a lot of people. And so after this vote, and he will win the vote tonight, but after this vote, we will have discussions about whether there should be a motion to vacate or not.
I hope so. I'm serious. Now, look, just super quick. Washington talk, Washington speak, it can get so wonky and boring and almost seem a bit irrelevant. But basically, he said we were going to be spending at fiscal 2022 levels, not 2023 levels, which is what Biden, these are the massive bloated spending Biden levels, which are much higher than 2022. So his point is, we're going to spend now at record levels that Biden established, plus 1%. And McCarthy said, and I remember this clearly, no. we're going to go back to at least 2022 levels. So in other words, we're not going to be spending an extra hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Like, that's going to stop. It's just going to stop. He couldn't even do that. Literally, he couldn't roll back spending to what it was 6 months ago. 6 months ago. That's how bad this freaking deal is. And you know, if you had to get 165 Democrat votes to help you put this thing over the top, you know this is not benefiting the base. This is not benefiting taxpayers. This is not benefiting the middle or working class, and it's not benefiting middle America. That you can take to the bank. So, my question to you, let me set the table, and I want to start taking all of your calls again. What do you make now of this deal? Does anybody support it? I really want to hear your argument if you think this is a good deal. I know many Republicans voted for it. Many Democrats voted for it. So do you think it's actually a good, positive step? And McCarthy, is it time for Kevin to go? 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff, and
Mags.
as always, God bless you. God bless you for everything that you do, Jeff.
Thank you, Mags.
I'd like to say a couple of things first about, yes, I think McCarthy needs to be fired immediately. And I think that the other 300 government employees that work for us should also be fired. Anybody that voted for this is a criminal because this is against our country. Okay? And if people don't realize that at this time, we're in trouble. I just want you to know, Jeff, I went to Washington with Kirsten yesterday for her sentencing, and what a disgrace it was to go into court at 10 o'clock when she's supposed to be taken care of and be told by a clerk that her attorney is on his way to the emergency room and that we will not be seen today. I believe this is all, again, criminal. It is part of a scheme to get her going and to see how far they can push these January 6th people that have done nothing.
That's
nothing.
incredible.
Okay.
So, Mag, sorry, this blows my mind. So this poor woman is going to be sentenced for basically doing nothing on January 6th. And so what happened? So allegedly her lawyer's on his way to the emergency room. So what is poor Kirsten doing? What's going to happen to her?
Well, we're all waiting, by the courtroom to go in. There's 10 of us that have come from New Hampshire. It's 8-hour drive there. Okay? We've stayed overnight. We're all ready to go. See what was going to happen because, like you said, she's done nothing, absolutely nothing, like many other January 6 people that have now been imprisoned. Okay, so this is all disgusting, but this is part of the swamp, and I honestly believe that these lawyers are also part of the swamp. Because think about it. You didn't know you were sick the night before or the day before that we were coming down there? Of course you did, if you were really sick. Okay? And
sorry, Mags. I'm sorry, Mags. Just to clarify this. So you're still in Washington now?
No, we are actually, we got home. We left there at 11 o'clock yesterday morning when we knew that nothing was going to happen. And they were like,
okay. So they had you stay overnight. So what they've pushed back her sentencing? Is that it?
Yeah, they actually, we left there, and I swear to God, it wasn't even an hour later, okay? They texted her and said that she was to be back there on June 8th.
They're just playing with her.
These people have no concern they're playing games with her. Are you kidding me? They're trying to push her over the edge, and that's what I said to her. Do not let them do that. Okay? Because this is all a game to them. That's how disgraceful our country has become. That we take people from our own country and punish them for nothing. I mean, I don't understand. People better be damn scared. I'm serious, Jeff. Because honestly, We didn't pay for our parking there because a man found out that we were patriots for our country and came to us and said, it's so awesome in Washington to see people like-minded that know that our country is so messed up and that we're being run by criminals. This man said this to us. He's like, it's awful here. I mean, I'm blown away that this is what's happened to our country. I'm 61 years old, and I said to my sister this morning, I'm very afraid. I'm very afraid for my great nieces and nephews, for her grandchildren, for kids in our country that are going to have a terrible life, Jeff. Your children. I mean, people, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the answer is, but everybody
it's
needs
what you're
to know.
Doing. No, Mags, really, no, it's what you're doing. That's the answer, is speaking out and standing our ground. Mags, if you don't mind me asking, is the lawyer okay? I mean, apparently it was an emergency room thing. So did the lawyer end up contacting Kirsten? What happened? Why was the lawyer in the emergency room? What did the lawyer have?
The lawyer said he had something wrong with him, like a breathing problem, okay, and that he hadn't been feeling good for several days. So why didn't he go before this? Or why didn't he tell Kirsten that he didn't feel good, that there was a problem before this? Okay? Then Kirsten gets upset because obviously should be upset, okay? And he turns it around on her. That's why I said something's wrong here. He never apologized, said, I'm so sorry, Kirsten, never did anything like that. Something is definitely wrong.
Now, is he going to be okay? Can he come back for the June 8th, or does she have to get a different lawyer?
Well, this is the thing. So, suppose who else is she going to get? Because I believe they're all part of this. Honestly, think about it. She's already had a public defender that was trying to make her take a plea, which is ridiculous. Okay, because they want her to say she's guilty of something that she didn't do. She's not going to do that. Okay, honestly. What is she supposed to do? Does anybody have any ideas? Because we're looking for people to let us help us. Because honestly, what is there to do now? Of course, we're going to go back on the 8th. She has no choice. Okay, but this should be thrown out of court. She hasn't even had any good representation. This judge should be saying, "What? There's something wrong here." I mean, he wouldn't even come out. I went to see. Could we speak to a judge? Could we speak to a lawyer that is, sitting right now, because there's always an extra lawyer there. Can we speak to somebody? Nope, they can't see you today. Nope, the guy wouldn't even look at our faces in the court. Wouldn't even
look. The main thing now, Mags, is that Kirsten stay strong, that she doesn't get frustrated or angry or lash out, because I think that's my fear. And hopefully he's doing better and he can show up. And he's fine. He's got his breathing problems under control. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they won't throw the book at that poor woman. Because you're right. She did nothing wrong. She did absolutely nothing wrong. This is a disgusting witch hunt. Thank you, Mags, A, for your point, and B, for keeping us all posted and updated. God bless you. Thank you so much for that call, Mags. And please give my best to Kirsten. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just a quick reset. They passed the deal yesterday in the House. There were many conservatives who defected, many Republicans. It didn't matter because the Democrats supplied more than enough votes. In fact, there were more Democrats who supported it than Republicans. 149 Republicans backed the debt ceiling deal. 165 Democrats backed it. So forget 218. They got over 300. They got 314 votes to 117 against. Some principal Democrats did oppose it, but it was mostly Republican opposition. Marjorie Taylor Greene did not oppose. She voted for. Jim Jordan did not oppose. He voted for. Thomas Massey did not oppose. He voted for. So there were some surprises. Gates voted against. Boebert voted against. Chip Roy voted against. Dan Bishop of North Carolina, Scott Perry, the chair of the Freedom Caucus, he voted against. Basically, most of the House Freedom Caucus voted against. Almost all of the so-called rebels voted against. But after that, McCarthy got his votes, and the Democrats gave him whatever else he needed. 617-266-6868. Okay, very quick. In a couple of days, we're literally going to be up against default. The Senate now is going to move on this very quick. Both Schumer and McConnell have pledged that they'll get this thing rammed through in about 2 days. So Biden will sign it by the weekend. But I want you to think about this. According to Janet Yellen, we are 4 days away from potentially defaulting. We're bumping up against the $31.7 trillion debt ceiling. So in theory, there's no money. We're running out of money. According to her, we won't be able to pay our bills. Her words, not mine. In 3 to 4 days. But even with this debt ceiling, 3 days away, listen to John Kirby, spokesman for the Pentagon. Roll cut 31. Mike.
Response, the United States is going to continue to support Ukraine, help give them things that they need to better defend themselves. As part of all that effort, we've got an upcoming package here, which will be the 39th drawdown of equipment from the Department of Defense inventories using presidential drawdown authorities. We will use that package that we're announcing today to provide Ukraine with additional munitions for Patriot air defense systems, which Ukraine has been deploying quite effectively, as well as more Avenger air defense systems, Stinger anti-aircraft systems, and ammunition, of course, for the HIMARS, artillery, and anti-armor systems that the United States continues to provide to Ukraine.
$300 million more in military aid, just like that. Like that. Stingers, Patriot missiles. Keep that war going in Ukraine, baby. They've got $300 million. Debt ceiling crisis? What debt ceiling crisis? Your calls next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, big day here at iHeartRadio. It's iHeartRadio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences, but they're today only. A trip for two to our 2024 iHeartRadio Alter Ego concert in LA. $100 savings bundle towards your shopping sprees for the latest fashion, home goods, and beauty products on the Temu app. Check out a virtual bachelor party co-hosted by Fox Sports Radio's Cavino and Rich. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Jack in Tewksbury. Thanks for holding, Jack, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. My opinion, Jeff, McCarthy has to he has to be held accountable. No confidence. All this fighting they did to get him into the speakership and all the concessions they supposedly got from him, you've got to hold him to the fire. You let him off the hook, then what did we accomplish with all that fighting? Secondly, Jeff, Republicans that voted for this bill, I don't care who they are, I want to hear from Jim Jordan. I want to hear from Marjorie Taylor Greene. I want to hear the reasoning for supporting this bill. Because if not, the most important election coming up is not the general election for the presidency. It is the primaries. These people need to be primaried. They need to be defeated. They need to have fear. They need to know that we're coming for them, Jeff. They need to be held accountable. This is unacceptable.
Well, look, Jim Jordan, that's the price if you're very ambitious in Washington. He's the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, the weaponization of the federal government subcommittee. Obviously, Jordan has real aspirations. I think maybe he wants to be speaker one day. And so, he probably cut a deal with McCarthy. You give me these powerful positions and I'll back you on these tough votes. But, okay, I'm not defending him. I'm just explaining, Jack. Marjorie Taylor Greene, that to me is a little more like, I'd love to get her on and ask her. I don't understand. What are you thinking? Really. And the person I also want to hear from on this, Jack, and I don't know if you disagree or not, where's President Trump? He has been strangely silent on this. And if you remember, he was the one who told Marjorie Taylor Greene, hey, look, I know you're one of my biggest supporters. I want you to back McCarthy. I've cut a separate deal with McCarthy. I think he's going to be good. We're going to have him on a tight leash, and he's going to do some really good work for us. Yet he hasn't really said very much about this debt deal. So I don't know if, Marjorie Taylor Greene made a promise to Trump and she cut a deal with McCarthy. Remember, she got kicked off those committees. I'll put you back on those committees, but you got to have my back, especially on some of these tough votes. So I'd like to know from her, because to me, you're right. This is a complete sellout. There's no question. And so why? What justify to me why it's worth adding $4 trillion more on the backs of our children and grandchildren? What are we getting for this $4 trillion? Because I don't see it. And I'd love to get her response. And frankly, I'd like to hear from Trump whether he thinks he likes the deal or he doesn't like the deal. I mean, to me, he's another one I think has to weigh in. Am I wrong, Jack?
Yeah, but I mean, he's only a person at this point. He's only a person like you and I.
You're right. He's a private citizen. But you're right. He's a private citizen.
He's a person like you and I. So it really doesn't matter what he thinks. The problem is, Jeff, they're selling us out. The omnibus bill, when they pass it before the House even get in there. I'm telling you, Jeff, the most important is the primaries. These people need to be primaried. They need to be gone. We need to strengthen our ranks. We're losing out of the Freedom Caucus. People are stepping aside and cutting deals from themselves. This is a bad sign, Jeff. It's a really bad sign. I don't like how it smells, and it doesn't look good. And I hope people are outraged on both sides.
Amen. Jack, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. I want to go to Mark in Medford, obviously, but before I do, let me ask all of you this, because this is the game that they play. This is the kabuki theater. It's always push it up right to the deadline, manufacture the drama, a crisis, the fear-mongering, the hysteria. Oh, we're going to default. Oh, my God, if we default, our credit rating's going to be downgraded. No one's going to trust the good faith and credit of the United States. We're going to have a major recession. Social security checks won't go out. People are going to go hungry. Millions are going to lose their jobs. We're going to have a government shutdown. In other words, the sky is going to fall. So they create such panic and fear and hysteria. They sort of almost emotionally blackmail or extort members of Congress. So they beat you up. Like, you really want this? Because it'll be on you. You vote against this. Oh, my God. Are you ready for the consequences? Are you ready? Are you ready to just destroy our, implode our economy? Are you ready to do that? And so, they don't want to negotiate 3-4 months out. It's always negotiate 3-4 days before the deadline, and we all find out what's in the deal, like this secret slush fund where McCarthy conceded to Jeffries billions and billions of dollars. It just came out after the vote. Community funding projects, they're called, but they're only for Democrats. Billions of dollars to basically buy votes, to just spend money in Democrat districts. That's what Jeffries got for his 165 votes that he brought for the Democrats. So they use this constant hysteria and fear and panic, and people just wilt. They roll out these economists, they roll out Janet Yellen, they roll them all out, and we can't pay our bills. Oh, my God, we'll be a deadbeat nation. So I want to ask all of you, let's just broaden it out a little bit. Are you afraid of a default? Like, just, God forbid, they killed the deal last night. Enough conservatives and enough principled Democrats came together and said, no, we're not going to borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow. It's going to stop. And so we end up defaulting on June 5th. We would still pay the interest on the debt. We have plenty of money for that. So we're paying all our creditors. Social Security checks would still go out. I don't care what they say. That's a lie. Now, it may lead to a partial government shutdown, yes. But to me, that's a plus. There's so many wasteful workers, useless workers and civil servants in Washington, D.C. I'm like, yeah, that's addition by subtraction. Good, okay. Yes, there's a lot of fat in Washington. Good. So some of them get laid off or don't get checks. Okay, we don't feel it. So what I'm asking you is this. Do you fear a default? Or is that just more fear-mongering? If we do have to default, isn't it better to do it now and get our economic house in order, make the cuts that we need to make, start balancing our books, balancing our budget? Or is it something that we must avoid at all costs because the consequences are that severe and that dire? Because that's the argument the swamp makes again and again. But I look at this, and to me, this is the Blank You America Act. This is not the Fiscal Responsibility Act. This is the Blank You America Act. This is a swamp deal. Of the swamp, by the swamp, for the swamp. But that's me. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark. And as always, welcome.
Well, thank you, my friend. Jeff, basically when the Republicans finally, after 14 tries, finally voted McCarthy in as speaker, didn't they tell him right to his face pretty much, listen, okay, we'll make you speaker. If you do wrong by the American people, you're out. Didn't they pretty much tell him that to his face? Wasn't that the deal they supposedly made?
Yes.
Okay, well, doesn't this qualify? Because this is a bad deal for everybody. And you know something, Jeff? I have a question, too. Every couple of years, these politicians, they go on TV, they go on the radio, and they basically beg and grovel and make false promises for us to vote for them and hire them as our representatives. So if that's the case, if we have the authority to vote for these people, to hire them to do a job for us, why don't we have the same authority to say, you know what, you're not doing a good job, you're freaking fired?
I agree.
Why do we have to wait for the next election? Why do we have to wait for the next election?
Oh, no, it's called recall. No, it's what you're talking about. It's called recall. And, it's many people like the idea, and they've pushed something in terms of a certain amount of signatures in your district should trigger an automatic recall. In other words, we have to go back and face the voters. Now, you don't want it to be too low because, you don't want just, 10,000 people or whatever. You want a high threshold once you've been elected. But I agree with you. I mean, if they keep breaking, I get it. You can fire them in the next election. But the next election is 2 years. I mean, they can screw us really good in 2 years. So I agree with you. If we can hire them, we should be able to fire them.
I just lost my train of thought.
Well, no, it's okay. No, Mark, because I want to ask you something. It's okay, Mark. And by the way, you're always good. I mean, trust me, you're always good. Mark, I want to ask you this. What do you say to the counter argument? Because this is the counter argument that even, to be fair, many conservatives on the Hill, like even House Freedom Caucus guys who don't like McCarthy, who voted against the bill, and you go to them, well, why don't you push? It's called vacate the chair. Why don't you push to vacate the chair? Have a vote of non-confidence. They go, look, we don't like the guy, and if we really need to do it, we will. But if we go down that road, it's going to plunge the House of Representatives into chaos because there's no immediate successor that we know can get 218 votes. So then it could go on for days and days and weeks, and there's literally no leadership. So, for example, I'm going to get to this later in the show. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, is clearly in contempt of Congress. And it looks now like Comer and McCarthy are going to hold him in contempt. He's been caught hiding the key bribery document for Biden. It's a massive scandal. Their argument is that gets lost. all it is now is replace McCarthy, replace McCarthy, and we don't know how long this thing could go on. So their argument is it'll create so much instability, uncertainty, chaos that we won't be able to do anything else. And we got to stay united in order to take down Biden and the Democrats in 2020. What say you, Mark?
Well, Jeff, this is why I love you in a non-sexual way. Because by you asking me this question just made me remember what I wanted to say to you. If the Republicans can't get together and go against this bill, what makes you think they're all going to get together and be on the same page and ousting McCarthy?
That's the checkmate argument. You see, I think that's the problem. You nailed it. There's no consensus on who should be his successor. And so I think that's what McCarthy is banking on. That's why he thinks his job is safe. Mark, before I let you go, is there anybody, I'm talking about the House of Representatives, not the Senate. Is there anybody in the House on the Republican side that you really trust? That you say, you know what? They mean what they say what they mean, their word is gold. When they're going to do something, they do it. They have our back all the time, 100%, so we should have their back all the time, 100%. Is there anybody?
Well, Jeff, I'm seeing the track record here, and I'm going to stick with any of those 20.
In other words, the original rebels, right?
Original 20 rebels? I think any one of them would probably be fine for us. I mean, they're sticking to their guns, Jeff. They're not giving up. They're bending, but they're not breaking. They're not breaking. Jeff.
No, I agree. I completely agree with you, as usual. Mark, thank you very, very much for that call. Look, it breaks my heart because, there's a lot of stuff about Marjorie Taylor Greene I really do admire and like. And, Jordan, at least pre-leadership Jordan, I just think, Jim Jordan was a good guy. I'm not saying he's a bad guy now, but I mean, he was one of us. And leadership, he's made compromises, whatever, but you know the expression, you dance with the devil? You don't seduce the devil seduces you. So you start dancing with the swamp and you start dancing with McCarthy, it starts to rub off on you. I still like Jim Jordan, don't get me wrong. But my trust factor is going down a little bit. I'm back to the original 20 rebels. Whatever you want to say about them, they have stuck to their guns again and again and again and again. So, it's Chip Roy, it's Dan Bishop, it's Lauren Boebert, it's Matt Gaetz, it's Scott Perry. He's the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. That whole crew. Good in Virginia, Norman in South Carolina. So I look at that band of 20 and I'm like, say what you want. They're principled, they're tough, they're brave, they're patriotic. They don't break, they don't even bend. 617-266-6868 is the number. Kay in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Kay, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
I just wanted to say about the Social Security and how they keep holding that over our heads, whether it be Democrat or Republican in office or whatever. There's no way there'd be political suicide for either one of the parties to cut back or stop during this time when they hadn't come to the budget agreement to hold back on Social Security or Medicare payments. We are the largest contributors, the baby boomers, to the whole system. There's nobody else. What they've been doing is spending our money through our work ethics, going to work every day. They've been spending our money like drunken sailors. The generations after us, less and less contributors, less children being born, less everything. That's the only way they're going to stop spending the money that doesn't belong to them. But it would be political suicide for anybody. And when I hear people say, "Oh, we're going to pass this because they're going to stop it," it's Republicans in office that want to stop Social Security payments during this time to get what they want. Well, it's both sides. It makes no difference, but it will never happen. So I just say they're all brain dead.
Oh, you're dead on.
That's
Okay, look, you're completely right. It is such a lie. You know, you want to talk about, I hate that word, but anyway, everybody uses it now, gaslighting. You want to talk about gaslighting, manipulating people's emotions. That's exactly what this is. Everyone's going to get their Social Security checks. Everyone's going to get Medicare. Everyone's going to, I mean, nothing, you know, the country, we're going to pay the interest on the debt. No one's going to default. Nothing is going to happen except, yes, there could be a partial government shutdown. Good. Like, yes, Washington is way too big, way too bloated, way too fat. There's so many freaking non-essential workers. Yes, good. Good. Get a real job. You know, 2 million less parasites is better for us. Try getting an honest job in the private sector. Hello. So, you know, this whole idea like, oh, the sky's going to fall. No, the sky's not going to fall. You're going to finally have to balance the books. And Kay, I don't want to get, again, too much into the inside baseball policy, but in terms of revenue, what the government takes in, they're taking more tax money now, tax revenue, than in the entire history of the United States. So it's not a revenue problem. They're getting more money out of us than they ever have, ever. It's a spending problem. So look, they have more than enough money. Start with not giving free welfare to illegal aliens. Like, just start with that. Okay? Let's just start with that. And you can save a ton of money. So there's a lot of ways they can balance the books if they wanted to balance the books. They just don't want to balance the books.
Other people's money, we will spend it to no end.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Because in the end, they don't look at it as their money. They look at it as someone else's money, our money. And that's why they, you know, it's easy to be generous with someone else's money. Be generous with your own money, and then we'll talk. Kay, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ken.
So many issues and so many questions that you've posed that I'd like to answer. But before I do, you know, for those of us who listen to most, if not all, of your show as often as we can, please have Mags back as much as possible to give us updates on Kirsten.
Oh, definitely.
We do want to know that story.
Oh, yeah, no question. No question.
But your first question, would I have voted for last night's bill? Answer is yes. Let me explain. You do what you can do with the power that you have and the troops that you have. We barely took the House in 2022. And as that result, in not having the Senate, not having the presidency, getting about a quarter to a third of a loaf is about as much as you can expect. And your primary question is, well, should McCarthy be taken out of his power? Okay, and then with Mark, you in effect came up with the answer, okay, we don't have the capacity to, given our numbers. That's just reality. Now, I think the two of us would love to have
Ken, can you do me a favor? I'm up against a hard break. We're going to come back with Ken. He says he would vote yes for the deal, and he's going to explain in greater detail why. And I want to get your reaction to Ken. More next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, before we go back to Ken in New Hampshire, it's iHeartRadio Access Day. Huge day here at iHeart. where we give you access like never before. Experience over 700 deals, but they're today only. So, for example, you can have Chef Tyler Florence prepare a meal for you. Wow. Meet up with Ryan Seacrest in Vegas at our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival, a trip for two to our 2024 iHeartRadio Alter Ego concert in Los Angeles. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Okay, let's go right back to Ken in New Hampshire. Ken said that he would vote for the deal if he was a member of Congress. Why? Very narrow majority, only, 221, so 3 or 4 votes, that's all they have. And a third or a quarter of a loaf is better than nothing. Please, Ken, pick up where you left off.
Jeff, the big issue on this whole debate was default. The United States of America cannot default on its debt as prescribed by our Constitution and enforced by the 14th Amendment that the left is trying to cite to say, well, we can do whatever we want. Because here's how it plays out. The latest threat that they're throwing out is, Janet Yellen's going to run out of money by the 6th, next Monday, Tuesday, whatever. And so let's say Sleepy Joe tells Janet Yellen, declare default. You know what happens after that? The U.S. Supreme Court steps in and says, you can't do that. Based on our Constitution, you have to find a way to pay the bills, and if you don't have enough money, cut spending wherever you need to cut spending. That is what the United States Constitution prescribes. What the media and the left has been peddling is fraud. So that's where we start on this issue. Okay. Where do we move forward?
Ken, hold on, but Ken, let me ask you this, just to play your logic out. So why not, since you have Biden over a barrel, and so why not go to him and say, look, I want to repeal the funding for all 87,000 IRS agents now. If not, we default. And as you point out, Ken, the Supreme Court will step in and they will mandate spending cuts. You're going to be blamed, Mr. President. And on top of that, forget limiting the growth of spending, the games that we play in Washington. These are going to be real cuts we're going to be forced to make. So if that's the case, why not go for, half a loaf? And to use your analogy, Ken, go for a much better deal. Why did McCarthy cave? I'm just curious.
If it played out the way you described, you're then handing over to the presidency, the executive branch, the power as to what to cut. What do you think they're going to cut? Things we want. You don't forfeit Congress. At least we have the House. You don't forfeit the purse strings. That's a terrible precedent to set. So we played this out as best as we can. And concerning the IRS agents, we played this out pretty good. You want to give up that issue come November 2024? I don't. So we literally knocked out what they could do for 1 year. And what do you think is going to happen on the budget for 2024? We're going to knock it out again. And we're going to keep the issue and beat them over the head with it. This is actually good. So let me also jump to what should we really be? What do we want in the future? I think we both like to see Chip Roy. I think he's clearly the future speaker. But it's going to take at least 30 seats for that to happen. And I'd also like his second in line to be Byron Donalds, so that by 2031, after Chip serves 3 terms, then we'd have Byron Donalds. That would scare the bejesus out of the left. But you've got to win the elections to get there. That's the bottom line. Now, how do we win the elections, Jeff? We stop talking about budgets and we talk about cultural issues. Politics is downstream from cultural issues. And what's the issue? We should be pounding them over and over again. The trans movement, who are acting like buffoons We keep hitting them over the head on the trans issue. That's how we win. We show their behinds, and they're showing it. There's a path to victory, but we have to take that path. It may not be right away, it may not be today, but we need to build that bridge to November 24 and win decisively.
Ken, as always, very thoughtful. Thank you so much for that call, Ken. So you just heard Ken in New Hampshire. Ken says, look, it's not it's not the perfect deal. It's a quarter of a loaf for a third of a loaf, but we knock out the IRS funding for this year. We get to knock it out again potentially next year in the appropriations bill. And we don't want to repeal all 87,000 because we lose that issue in the 2024 election. And that ultimately, forget the budget, kick the can down to 2025. The real issue is going to be culture war, the transgenderism, crime, the border. Those are the issues that Republicans can win on. So let's focus on that. Agree, disagree. Frankly, to me, I want the IRS 87,000 agents gone. But to me, it's not a question of an issue that we can use to win. I don't want that hanging over us for the next 10 years. But that's me. What say you? 8:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me throw another quick log on the fire, my friends. Ken in New Hampshire made the point that really the ground that Republicans want to fight on are the culture war issues. That budget, the budgetary issues, fiscal issues, that's not what's going to decide, say, the 2024 election. But issues like grooming of children, transgenderism, pornography in the classroom, all of those issues, like, what's now Target is now being massively boycotted over, or Bud Light, that's where the heat, the passion, the overwhelming interest and the advantage that Republicans have. Do you think culture trumps economics? Do you think culture trumps the budget? To me, they're both. Of course, the war on our children is very important, no question. But $36 trillion in debt. Holy shamoly. How is that not a war on our children and grandchildren? So I look at what they're doing now, and I'm saying they are digging us such a deep fiscal economic hole we may never be able to climb out of. So ultimately, if you're bankrupt, if you're broke, nothing else matters because you can't do anything. You can't pay for anything. You're broke. You're a third world nation. So to me, we got to fight on both fronts, but that's me. Agree, disagree. Steve in Braintree. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeffrey. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. I'm not going to criticize another caller, but that man was completely wrong about the constitutional aspects of the debt ceiling. The debt that it's referred to in the 14th Amendment is debt already incurred by the United States, and we have more than enough money to incur to pay the debts we've already incurred in the last budget. What they're talking about is a debt ceiling is for future debt, and that doesn't apply. The 14th Amendment does not apply. Second, the Supreme Court can never order Congress to engage in any of its exclusive powers, such as minting and taxation, and so there'd be no order from the Supreme Court to make cuts. That's a separation of powers issue. They can enjoin the Congress from doing something like they do the president, but they can't order another branch of government to do anything. So that he was way off base on that. He should probably stop the armchair legal scholaring. But on his other point with the culture issues, what we failed to realize is that's a base turnout. And our base is turning out. It doesn't matter. The Democrats turn out their base with abortion. We turn it out with the trans issues. So you really can't concentrate on that. The middle is where you need to hit the voters. And in order, the four issues for the middle, suburban, house moms and soccer moms and suburban dads and the assorted people you need to hit that are sort of moderates and centrists are, in order, the economy, law and order, the border, and foreign affairs, this war that's going on. Those are the 4 issues that people care about. That's the kitchen table issues that have been a part of American politics for decades, and it hasn't changed. Yes, the trans issue, you bring it out, but that's your base. That's the far end of the right. That's not who you need to win a national election. You need to concentrate on those 4 issues. So I think he's completely wrong on that. It's good to bring it up. It's nice to help turn out your base when you need it, but you can't concentrate on those. It's not going to get you what you need nationally. So those 4 are the biggies. You're right. That he has to be, the trans issue is just, it's like their abortion. For every vote you turn out that's a trans voter, they're going to turn out 1 or 2 that's an abortion voter. So it cancels each other out, really. It's just a base turnout matter.
Steve, I'm just curious, the deal last night that they voted on, if you were Congressman Steve from Braintree, are you a yes or are you a no?
Well, I'm probably a no. Again, I would not have voted for that, depending on, if my constituents voiced that they wanted me to, then I would do what the voters in my district wanted me to do. But on principle, I would have voted no, because it just isn't enough. There's not enough cuts in there to justify $4 trillion worth of spending. I mean, you can't go up to 36. What? And, there's modern monetary theory that Yellen and the Democrats, abide by now, where it doesn't matter what you spend because you can always print money. I mean, we're going to end up Weimar Germany, and they don't even realize it. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're engaged in modern monetary theory where, because we have the ability to print money, we can never go bankrupt. It's insanity. I mean, I don't see the end game here. I don't understand that economic theory. I never have. It makes absolutely no sense to just keep incurring debt. And that's, what Janet Yellen and the people at the Fed now believe in. So if someone can explain to me how that works, I'd love to know, because I saw it happen. Well, I didn't see it, but we've heard about it. It was Weimar Germany.
Oh, yeah.
When you needed, 10,000, you needed 10,000 Deutschmarks to buy a loaf of bread. They know what
Steve,
happened?
You're dead on. Or Steve, look, let's not go all the way back to Weimar here. Countries all over the world today, take Turkey. Under Erdogan, inflation was, 80%? It's now down to 43. But they did the same thing. Massive spending, massive deficits, print money. And the Turkish currency, the lira, it's a shadow of its former self. I mean, he's wiped out the middle class in Turkey. So now it's about 43% inflation, but it was 70, 80% a couple of years ago. Like, that's where we're heading. It's happening all over the world. Steve, I want to ask you this. 87,000 IRS agents. Ken made the point, we clawed it back for this year. They're not going to be able to enforce that for this year. We can hold them back in the appropriations next year. And we need it as an issue in 2024. Do you agree with Ken? Don't repeal all 87,000 IRS agents. Do it piecemeal, because it's a good issue. I'm of the school, when someone's got a gun to your head or got a target on your back, you take it out. You don't play around. Those IRS agents, Steve, are aimed at you, at me, at the listeners of this show. Just take it out. Repeal it, root and branch. Get rid of it now. But that's me. What say you?
I mean, it's such an inside the beltway issue that, is it going to be a top priority in 2024? Probably. Are we ever going to be able to do anything about it? No. What you need is to just, the better thing to do is just rein in the powers of the IRS and their agency. That's the better way to go about it. Don't worry about how many people they put there. Get some legislation in to reduce their powers. That would be the smart, because you can fill a bureaucracy with 1 million people. If you take away what they're able to do, then you solve the problem. So I would approach it from 2 different ways. I'd get some legislation in there to reduce what they're able to do, and then reduce some of the agents. But you're never gonna cut all of them. I mean, it was ridiculous. The level of COVID spending that we didn't go back to is, pre-COVID is insanity. I mean, that should have been the first step. I don't understand why we're spending money when there's no more pandemic.
Oh, I agree with you. Oh, I agree. Steve, again, really good call. A really good call. That's my argument. That's the argument of the House Freedom Caucus, all those who voted no. I mean, the pandemic is over, but we're still spending at pandemic levels. We're not even going back to just the pre-pandemic level spending. I agree. That should have been numero uno. And by the way, that was the key pledge that McCarthy made when he won the speakership. He goes, I will fight like hell to make sure that we claw back spending, roll it back to what it was prior to COVID. And guess what? He caved. He waved the white flag of surrender. Steve, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. So again, what did we get? To me, we got crumbs. You know, you're to justify $4 trillion more in spending and adding to the national debt, $4 trillion. What did we get? I don't think we got much, but that's me. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Bruce, what's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I'd like to give you a big howl if I have permission.
Of course, go ahead.
Okay, buddy.
They heard that last night in Washington. That was so loud it was deafening, Bruce. Oh,
well,
the Moonbats were out in full force last night, Bruce.
Jeff, I'm going to give you some little words from Claib. Somebody did nothing? Are you kidding me, Jeff? They could have done something. I'm really disappointed with McCarthy. I didn't really back him in the beginning, and I thought he was going to be doing the right thing for us. And
Bruce, please hang on. I'm up against a hard break. Hey, Bruce, it was Ilhan Omar, by the way. Some people did something. Some people did nothing. Back with your 850 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, special day here at iHeart. It's iHeart Radio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences today only. You can see Lionel Richie, Earth, Wind, and Fire on tour. Digitize your printed photos for 76% off the regular price with Legacy Box. Spending the day with Dan Patrick and the Danettes in the Man Cave. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com, iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. So let me ask you, my friends, what do you make now of the deal that was rammed down our throats last night? The swamp celebrating, McCarthy saying it is a moment of triumph for him, and the Republicans in particular, many Democrats also backing the deal. Do you think it's good for the United States? And more than that, is it time for McCarthy to go? Are you disillusioned with him? Do you feel he has betrayed us? And others, Marjorie Taylor Greene voted yes. Jim Jordan voted yes. Tom Massey voted yes. Many so-called principled conservatives voted for the deal. Do you feel that they betrayed us? Do you feel let down? Or is this the best that we could have gotten? 617-266-6868 is the number. And just overall, what is your sense now of the Republican Party under McCarthy? Are they pushing back? Are they winning? Are they changing the tone and direction in Washington? Or do you feel it's just more of the same? Rhinos capitulating, rhinos surrendering. 266-6868 is the number. Bruce in Woburn. Bruce, you were saying reminds you a lot of Ilhan Omar. Some people did nothing. Bruce, you're a staunch conservative. The deal, do you think it's time for McCarthy to go? Should he vacate the chair? Is it time for new blood, new leadership?
Thanks for straightening me out on the name, because there's so many moonbats in so little time, Jeff. And thank you very much, and I love you in a non-sexual way, as always. No, I can't believe that the people that were supposed to be voting for us, they basically voted against us, Jeff. And not only the $4 trillion, but what about the trillions of dollars we're going to be spending for all these illegals coming across the border, Jeff? This is a smokescreen for us to take our minds off of that. And it's unbelievable. And all these, sanctuary cities, now they're complaining because they're all jacked up. And even the ones that weren't, sanctuary cities are jacked up. And it's going to keep happening and happening and happening. And crime's going to go up, Jeff. Home invasions, carjackings, rapes, robbings, murders, child molesters. I'm glad I don't have any children. I pray for yours, and I pray for everybody in Kuhner country. Just keep yourself aware of your surroundings, because they're there and they're coming faster than we can even keep
there's no
track of.
question. Bruce, you're dead on. And Bruce, as always, thank you so much for that call. Look, to show you the gravity of the situation, somebody tweeted out last night on social media a football stadium, capacity 100,000, and they show you the picture. And it was packed, one of these college football games. And they go, I want you to look at this stadium. See how many people are in this stadium? Multiply that 63 times. There's 100,000 people in that stadium right now. Multiply that 63 times. That's how many illegals Biden has let in the last 2 years alone. When you look at that, you're like, holy shamoly. Ay, ay, ay. And we got to pay for all of this. We're going to educate them. Free health care, free housing, welfare, food, iPhones, iPads. I mean, I'm looking at this. I'm like, are you kidding? No wonder they're going to eat up $4 trillion in 20 months. Look at the money we're throwing away. And then what is it now? 125, 130 billion for Ukraine? They can't even keep track of all the money flying out of here. So they're spending it on wars. They're spending it on illegals. They're spending it on bureaucrats. They're spending it on welfare deadbeats. They're pouring it into sanctuary cities. And you're telling me that we should be congratulating McCarthy? They're like, oh, that's cut spending. How? It adds $4 trillion, man. It's not even $4 trillion over 4 years. It's $4 trillion over 20 months. You guys are giving drunken sailors a bad name. And by the way, drunken sailors spend their own money. They're not spending our money. Now, very quick about illegals, because all of you need to know this. New York now, the mayor is basically crying uncle. Eric Adams has now come out. He's going to go to court because these idiots, these moonbats in New York, I swear to you, said that illegals have a, quote, right to shelter. So if you get to New York City, it's not just a sanctuary city. The illegals have a, quote, right to shelter. So that's why they're putting them in all these hotels and motels, because they have a right to stay in a hotel or a motel. The problem now is it's all full. And Adams is saying no tourists are coming, A, because of the crime, but B, they can't book a hotel room because all of it has been booked up by the illegals. So he's now going to go to court to try to undo the right to shelter. In other words, like, hey, look, we can't take any more illegals and we have to keep sheltering every single one of them. There's not enough hotels or motels left. Chicago, LA, Atlanta, Houston, I can go on, city, Portland. And by the way, I want all of you to take a guess. Okay? Take a guess. They are now beginning to track where many of these illegals are going or where they're being sent to by the Biden regime. Yes, many are making their way to New York. I'm going to get to Boston and Massachusetts in a second. But they're making it to Chicago, to New York, to the big sanctuary cities. But do you know where the overwhelming majority of these illegals are now going? Biden's illegals? Take a guess. Take a guess. In fact, 71.1% of them, 71%. Where do you think they're going? Red districts. They're going to red states, red counties, red districts. Yes, New York is overwhelmed. Yes, Chicago's overwhelmed. Yes, LA's overwhelmed. No question. But there's so many coming in that almost over 2/3 of them are being deliberately resettled into Republican red state or red jurisdictions. It's deliberate. Water down Texas, water down Idaho, water down Montana, water down South Carolina, water down Florida. So now it's a deliberate strategy to undermine red states, red jurisdictions, red counties by flooding them with these illegals. Speaking of Massachusetts and Boston, they're coming into Boston. We now know definitively. They're starting to stay in hotels like in New York. They're now spreading from Boston into the greater Boston area. One of the places they've now hit and hit hard is in Taunton. Again, national show, so people have to know. Taunton is a city, or a town, I guess, a city, in Mass. What would you say, Sandy? Half an hour to Boston, maybe? I'm not talking with traffic. With traffic, you can stay, 2 hours. But basically, 30, 35, maybe 35 minutes, 40 minutes from Boston. Anyway, it's within shooting distance of Boston. Working class town. I know it. I've been there multiple times. The hotel in downtown Taunton is now full with illegal aliens. Full. And initially, Maura Healey, the Moonbat governor, Holden Healey, told the mayor of Taunton that they were going to bring in just a quote-unquote few families. A few families turned into 400 families. 400. The major hotel in downtown Taunton, the Clarion Hotel, is now full. Absolutely full of migrants. In fact, it is so full, I got an email from a very kind woman who said that she was going to be married next month and her reception was going to be held at that Clarion Hotel in Taunton. Well, guess what? A couple of weeks ago, according to her email, she said we got a call out of the blue because we had booked several hotel rooms for our guests at our wedding. This is something we've been planning for a long time. It's, my dream, that of my spouse. We want it to be, it's going to be held in Taunton. We wanted to have the reception. We wanted to have the hotel, our guests to stay at the Clarion Hotel so they can enjoy themselves. We had booked the rooms months ahead of time, signed the contract, the whole thing. We suddenly get a call. I'm sorry, you can't stay. Your guests can't stay. We're kicking them out. They will not be able to stay in June for your wedding. Why? Because the place now has been given to illegal aliens. They've taken over all the rooms. They have a contract with the state government. The government is paid off the hotel. Blank you, blank your guests, blank your wedding. Oh, but you can still hold a reception. I'm going to hold the reception, but my guests can't stay overnight? And we booked this thing months ago? Are you kidding me? So they've ruined this poor woman's beautiful day. And look what they've done. They've now shown again. They've put the interests of illegals. These are criminal trespassers over the interests of hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding Americans. What did this poor woman and her guests do? Nothing. She's planning the wedding of her life. She wants to hold it in Taunton, where she and her spouse, they're from that community, and they want to do it in front of their family, in front of their friends, and they have some people coming in from other parts of the state and the country. And so at the hotel, they're going to be holding the reception in. They booked whatever it was, 10 or 12 rooms for, family members, close friends, bridesmaids, whatever. And they paid and booked it months in advance. And unilaterally, they break their contract? Unilaterally, they're told, get lost? Because we got to make room for these illegals? Is that right? And this is a microcosm of what's happening across the entire country. We are literally being displaced. Now, furthermore, according to the multiple media reports, and we've got this figure hard. I know it's much higher, but minimum 800 families, 800 have now been shipped into Massachusetts. 800 families, not individuals, families. So they're starting to come. They're showing up in Cape Cod. They're showing up in Taunton. They're showing up in Boston. They're starting to show up in towns and cities all across Massachusetts. And let me tell you the problem that we have. We have the same problem that New York and Chicago has. Not only is Boston a sanctuary city, but in essence, Massachusetts is a de facto sanctuary state. That's a massive magnet. It's not Florida. Florida, DeSantis passed E-Verify. Florida, it's hard to hire an illegal. Florida, DeSantis has made clear you're not welcome here. They're going to go after illegals. They're going to crack down on illegals. They're making it uncomfortable for illegals. Here, it's the exact opposite. They roll out the welcome mat. So, if you're an illegal, they're going to set you up at a 4 or 5 star hotel. They're going to kick out wedding guests. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, all paid for. The children are already being sent into the Taunton schools. They're already in the schools. So the schools are now overcrowded. They're already going to the local hospitals and emergency rooms. All the welfare you want, all the free health care you want, all the free housing you want, all the free food you want, free, 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 free. And initially, it was just for a couple of weeks. They've been there now for months. And believe me, they're going to be there for years. For years. They're coming. And they're coming everywhere. And it's not just Massachusetts. They're going into Minnesota. They're going into Montana. They're going... Idaho and South Dakota is now getting flooded with illegal aliens. I mean, with all due respect, many of them come from Central and South America. Who wants to go in that freezing cold? That's where Biden is shipping them. You know why? Because they want to turn those red states blue. So you flood the country with enough illegal aliens, and before you know it, they all get driver's licenses, they all get registered to vote, You do the mail-in ballots, and before you know it, places like Montana and Idaho, what the hell's going on there? Oh, they're just as blue as California. If we don't secure the border and stop this invasion, this country is finished. Finished. Where are the Republicans? Where are the Republicans? That's the question I keep asking again and again and again. 617-266-6868 is the number. And by the way, I need to say this. Where's the Massachusetts Republican Party? Where's the chairman of the GOP? The state chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, Amy Carnevale, that Baker hack. Why isn't she screaming at the top of her lungs about this? Instead, everybody's trying to blame Jim Lyons, and he's one of the only few guys that's standing up and speaking out against this. Him and Jeff Deal. That's it. And that rhino mayor of Taunton, Shauna O'Connell, should be ashamed of herself. She runs on Newsmax. All she does is whine and complain. You're the mayor. Tell the governor, get lost. Taunton will not put him up. Taunton will not foot the bill. Taunton will not comply. Period. Send him somewhere else. Don't send them to us. 617-266-6868 is the number. This is now Chris Doty's party. This is now the establishment and the rhinos in Massachusetts. And they are colluding with Maura Healey to fleece us and fleece us good. Lisa in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I just wanted to say very briefly what I don't like about that bill that they passed is the way that it even happened. Forget what's in it. There's no cap. They claim they cut the spending, but they did it in the dark of night over a holiday weekend after Kevin sent the whole conference home. They were all holding the line. They were all on the same page that they were going to hold the line. He sent them home, and then in the dark of the night, he snuck in like a typical swamp creature and pulled two of the worst negotiators. I don't know where they came from. They're standing up there saying what a great deal they negotiated. They got nothing. When you can have the Democrats go all over national TV and say that it's a good bill, you know it's not a good bill.
Oh, I completely agree. Lisa, I completely agree. Lisa, I got to ask you, I mean, he stabbed us. I mean, he stabbed us good, I got to tell you. McCarthy screwed us good. And you know that old Eastern European expression, don't pee on my back and call it rain? Well, there he is celebrating and, oh, what a deal, and, oh, historic deal, and, you know, don't do that. You know, when you stab me, just tell me. When you're peeing on me, just tell me you're peeing on me. Lisa, do you think it's time for McCarthy to have a leadership challenge? Is it time for him to go?
So I don't know. You know, that much I don't know, because I feel like Kevin is who he is in front of the camera, and he's somebody different behind the camera. And I feel like most of them are like that. I don't ever like a bill when 10 of the people...
Lisa, do me a favor, please. I'm up against it. Please hang on. I'm up against a hard break, but I want to come right back to you. And I want to ask you, good deal, bad deal, and is it time for McCarthy to go? 9:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very special day here at iHeart. It's iHeartRadio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences today only For example, you can meet up with Ryan Seacrest in Las Vegas at our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Game Time is giving you $20 off tickets to the hottest shows and games of the summer, or you can have Chef Tyler Florence prepare a meal for you. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Go again to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Okay, quickly, I want to go back to Lisa in New Hampshire. Before I do, you need to know this, just to keep all of you updated on what's going on. You want to see how pathetic the Massachusetts Republican Party is? On Tuesday, there were two special elections for state rep. The Republicans didn't even field a candidate. Nothing. Whether, good candidate, bad candidate, I agree with the candidate, Jeff, I don't agree with the candidate. Nothing. Nobody. The Dems were unopposed. Unopposed. This is the so-called new mass GOP promised by Amy Carnevale and the Baker Rhino establishment hacks who overthrew Jim Lyons and Jeff Deal. They're not even, forget fighting on the battlefield. They're not even deploying soldiers. There's no army. There's no nothing. Now, moreover, apparently people close to the mayor of Taunton, Shauna O'Connell, that rhino, apparently now they're saying to the media that the Clarion Hotel, which is where these migrants are being, set up, they apparently signed, the hotel did, a 9-year deal. A 9-year deal for every single room in that hotel to house these illegal aliens. 9 years. So, first they said a couple families, a couple weeks. Now it's 400 families, and it's not even a couple of months. They're looking at 9 years. In other words, they're not going anywhere. It's like flatten the curve. You remember? Just 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Jeff. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It turned into 2 freaking years. So they're coming. Believe me, they're coming. Okay, let's go right back to Lisa in New Hampshire. Lisa, I asked you the $64,000 question. You're very disappointed in McCarthy. You're very disappointed in the deal, as am I. Is it time for a leadership challenge? And you're a little bit on the fence, which is kind of unlike you, Lisa, but that's okay. Why, Lisa? Why are you a little reluctant to say, let's oust McCarthy? Is it because there's no consensus candidate? That you fear that maybe this could go on and on for weeks and months and we won't be able to pick anyone? So at this point, better with the devil you know than the devil you don't?
I feel like when Elise Stefanik and Marjorie Taylor Greene are on the side that I'm not on, and then the other people, so when they stand up there and they sell it, if I didn't know any better, I'd say, oh, it sounds like a good deal. But then you listen to the other half and you go, oh my God, they screwed us. So when you get your favorite people split, it's the reason why I hate Republicans. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. I dislike Republicans more than I do Democrats because Democrats just stand there. They spew their bull. They stick together. And the Republicans just go east, west, south, north. On any given day, you can't trust them. They never stick together. And they're all a bunch of scam artists. I can't stand them. They are what frustrates me far more. I would have preferred a game of chicken. At the end of the day, if we ended up with what we got, at least put on a show. At least make believe that you're fighting. At least do something that makes the rest of us feel like, okay, we tried and we failed because we only have a 5-seat majority. But don't send people home over a holiday weekend and then make a deal in the dark of the night and expect me to go along with anything that Democrats are in on. It's disgusting, Jeff. It really infuriates me.
Lisa, drop the mic. I couldn't have said it better myself, really. Lisa, thank you very much for that call. Look, I always say this. Even if we lose, okay, but at least fight. And that's how I raise my kids. Like, if someone is bullying you, stand up for yourself. Well, what if I lose? Okay, you lose. So what? It's just you fight it out on the schoolyard or whatever, but at least you stood up for yourself. Okay, you can't win every battle, but it's okay. But at least care, at least fight. This. And don't dress up surrender like a victory. Don't stand there and cave and capitulate and then turn around and give him a standing ovation. Like this guy's the second coming of Winston Churchill. Lisa, thank you for that call. Again, just to repeat, before the actual vote last night, the Republican conference got up, and I'm not kidding. Bravo! Bravo! Kevin! Kev, you did it! They gave him a standing ovation. I'm like, for what? Adding $4 trillion to our debt? And surrendering and betraying us on every key promise? And remember, what was the seminal promise? The first thing they passed, they didn't get through in the Senate, but they said, no, this is it. This is where we're going to stand our ground. This is our red line. We're going to repeal the funding for 87,000 new IRS agents. 98% of it is intact. So on their key promise, they screwed us. 9:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Andrew, speaking of Taunton, Andrew in Taunton. Thanks for holding, Andrew, and welcome.
Well, good morning, Kuhner man.
Hi, Andrew.
Yes, regarding the situation at the hotel is not downtown. It is literally a minute off of 495. So it's very, very, very accessible. I know firsthand that the kids that are living there, some of them are filtering into the Taunton public schools, I guess, as well now, too. And from what I understand, I guess the liberal teachers are not too pleased about this. No one knows if these kids have been vaccinated, the immunization and so forth. I can tell you also that yesterday I was behind two fire trucks that ended up going over to the hotel itself, which, as Sean O'Connell says, is putting a large strain on our EMS services as well. So it used to be the Holiday Inn, so it's been the Clarion for a bit. And, this is very real, what's going on now.
Andrew, I'm just curious, how do you, the people of Taunton, the taxpayers, families, how do you feel about having one of your major hotels completely now essentially occupied by illegal aliens? And apparently they signed a 9-year contract. That's what people around the mayor were saying. 9 years. So they're not going anywhere, Andrew, believe me. Do the people of Taunton want this? Do they support this? Or do they fear now you guys are going to be stuck with them, with the tab, paying for everything?
The state, from what Sean O'Connell said, the state is kicking in money towards this. So I guess it's easing the burden on Taunton, but it is straining our emergency services as well as it's overcrowded. And she said that she's going to be charged. They're looking at how many people are in the hotel, and to be fined over $1,000 a day because it's overcrowded. Keep in mind, this hotel during COVID as well was also a big stockpile of a lot of people that had COVID in the hotels. It used to be the Holiday Inn. So since the Clarion's taken it over, they've had some pretty good deals, I think, with the state.
Well, Andrew, what I don't get is people go, well, the state's going to chip in. I get that, but Taunton is part of the state. In other words, you're still paying for it. Even if the state, I get it, the state's going to throw in some money, but it's your money. I know it's the whole state. I get it. But Taunton is still going to be paying for this, not only through local taxes, but even from the state side of it, because Taunton pays taxes to the state. Do you see what I'm saying, Andrew?
We're all mad as hell. But who am I going to complain to? Representative Mark Pacheco, a lifelong Democrat. What recourse do I have? You just talked about no Republicans running for races in Massachusetts. There is no representation in Massachusetts. And all I can tell you is because I go by the hotel every day. You can see these people. They're outside. They also head up towards BJ's. They come out of there with food. I don't know who's paying for all this. I don't know. But
it's not them. I'll tell you this, Andrew. It's you, my friend. It's you and the residents of Taunton, and now soon all of us, because the state's going to be kicking in. So you and I are paying for this, Andrew.
But what recourse do you have?
I mean, Andrew, when you pass by, do they give you like a little thank you, or like, hey, Andrew, hey?
No, I'll tell you, my wife has had it. She's like, she said, I'll just go by these people. I'll see them in the stores. They give you looks like, what are you looking at? She goes, I have no sympathy for these people. As far as we're concerned, as far as I'm concerned, you're breaking the law, and the arrogance and the smugness of you coming here and living off the dime, off our backs, really is infuriating. But like I said, what recourse do I have? Who can I complain to?
Well, I'm just curious, Andrew. How about the mayor? Have you spoken to Shauna O'Connell?
I think she's doing as much as she really can, to be honest with you. And I think because part of the fact is she was also very active in the Democratic Party. I'm thinking maybe they just did this to, pee her off. Pardon my French. Because she's actually a very, as far as Republicans go in the state of Massachusetts, she was very well respected as far as, she always stood her ground. She always was against, championing welfare reform and so much like that. So I think, maybe the state just said, hey, let's throw a little one at Shauna O'Connell and Taunton,
I mean, they're hosing down the poor people of Taunton. Really, I got to tell you, and you're right. Look, I'm getting emails, text messages. People are saying they're in Kingston. People are saying they're seeing them in Reading, Quincy. I mean, now they're just Boston, obviously. That goes without saying. I mean, they're just popping up everywhere now. And you know what I can't stand most of all, Andrew? They're doing it behind our backs. They're pretending no one's coming in, and they're flying them in. They're busing them in. They're flying them in. Now they're popping up all over Cape Cod. And you're right. It's like in New York City. They put them up in these nice hotels. They feed them. And they're, just drug use, violence, alcoholism, fights are breaking out. They're throwing away food. They think they're entitled. No one says thank you. No one's humble. No one's grateful. I can't believe it. Like, we owe it to them. Like, we owe them. That to me is the most, I always feel sorry for poor people. I really do. My parents were poor. My grandparents were poor. Hell, my grandfather was a legitimate refugee. So, I have a soft spot in my heart. But I got to tell you, my parents and my grandparents, boy, were they humble. They were grateful for every little thing. These people, they walk around like they own us.
And there's nothing, like I said, I'm mad as hell about it. A lot of my the people are in Taunton, but I mean, it's like, again, what recourse do you have? I mean, you can't, if you don't have a gun, you can't fight. If you don't have anybody championing your efforts, if you don't have any representation, what can you do?
I hear you, Andrew. I hear you. Thank you very much for that call. Really good on the spot report for us. Thank you. So things are bad in Taunton, and the citizens are not happy, and I don't blame them. 617-266-6868 is the number. Like, in all seriousness, okay? You come from a third world hellhole. Like, for example, in Taunton, many of them are from Haiti. And you're in the country illegally. And you're in the country illegally. But I'm asking you, if you were born in one of the most poorest, miserable, hellish places on earth, we're talking famine, starvation, hand to mouth. Every day is a struggle for existence. and they put you up in a, whatever, 4-star, 5-star, whatever. You know, they put you up in a nice hotel with maid service, clean sheets, bathroom, showers every day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, clean clothes, sneakers, jeans, phones, iPads. I don't know about you, but I'm serious. I would say, look, I've saved $5. This is all I've saved my entire life. Where can I go buy an American flag? I'm serious. Wouldn't you do that? Because I want to wave it from my hotel room to say thank you. This is the greatest country in the world. Thank you, thank you. And if I went to BJ's or wherever to get food, I'd be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm serious. I'd be like, I love America. I love America. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. Wouldn't you be saying that? Like, in other words, hey, I want to work. I want to assimilate. I don't, you know, I love this place. Thank you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Thank you. Instead, blank you. More. What are you looking at me for? Hey. It's like we owe it to them, like they're entitled. It's disgusting. Again, that's the difference between a legal and an illegal immigrant. A legal immigrant wants to assimilate. A legal immigrant comes in legally. That means they respect you, your laws, your customs, your sovereignty, your traditions. They come to contribute. They come to work. They come to pay taxes. They come to fulfill, make something of themselves. An illegal, doesn't matter where they're from, Eastern Europe, I don't care where they're from. An illegal is an illegal is an illegal. They're squatters. They're trespassers. They're criminals. So they behave like squatters and trespassers and criminals. You give a squatter free food. The squatter doesn't say thank you. The squatter says, give me more. You owe it to me. I don't owe you anything. Blank off. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's iHeartRadio Access Day, where we give you access like never before. Over 700 deals and experiences today only. You can attend a live broadcast of The Herd with Colin Cowherd. 50% off tickets. Passes at 5 SeaWorld and Busch Gardens parks nationwide. A trip for 2 to our 2024 iHeartRadio Alter Ego concert in Los Angeles. These deals are only available today at iHeartRadioAccessDay.com, iHeartRadioAccessDay.com. Okay, my friends, what say you? Do you fear now that Massachusetts will be flooded, like so many other states, with Biden's illegals? And why couldn't McCarthy and the Republicans get any kind of a good deal when they had Biden over a barrel? Do you feel betrayed by the Republican leadership in Congress? I know I do, but I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us 70470, 70470. Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I'm disappointed to hear about Shauna O'Connell. I believe I met her at the illegal immigration rally. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Jeff. I don't know if she was there at that rally, or maybe it was previous with the what's the name of the young girl that was held captive?
No, it was the illegal immigration rally, and well, she went all in with Chris Doty, and so she sided with the Rhino Baker establishment wing of the Massachusetts Republican Party, and then she stabbed her friend Jeff Deal right in the back. She just tore into Jeff during that primary last year to challenge Maura Healey. And frankly, the Doty people have never gotten over it. And they've been waging a jihad, really, against Jeff, against Jim Lyons, and it's tearing the Republican Party apart. And I blame them because they launched the Civil War and they're continuing this Civil War.
Well, again, it is beyond disappointing. I would like to say something about McCarthy, and I wanted to say I chuckle because you use the word leadership and McCarthy in the same sentence. Jeff, please don't use big words that they don't understand. Okay? Please, I pray that you can just please honor that. I would like to make a reference to McCarthy, and I'm taking it from a previous caller. I think it was yesterday, because this too also cracked me up. He referred to him as he's as useless as a ham sandwich at a bar mitzvah. And high five to that caller. I don't remember his name. When I see McCarthy, my stomach starts to turn. This guy, it's all about power. It's all about position. Has nothing, NOTHING, to do anything with regards to the goodwill of the people. He is as phony as a $3 bill. Okay? Let's not forget, Jeff. This man did not step up to the plate to defend Trump with the stolen election. He was nowhere to be found. He was everywhere to be found previous to that. You know, he's basically almost up his wahoo, hoo-ha, whatever they want to call it. And then all of a sudden he just went away. Took him, 87 times to get nominated into that whole nightmare that we have this guy. We've been sold out. And I hate to say this is another uncomfortable comment coming from Brenda from Beverly, but this is an argument. My father and I, God rest my dad's soul, he was a yellow dog Democrat. We used to have rock'em, sock'em, robot fights about politics. But we were in agreement about the dismantling of the party system. And of course, he would always say, but Brenda, it's never going to happen, because he even understood there's just too much damn power. Everybody that steps up to the plate that calls in makes a brilliant point that helps to be in favor of dismantling the party system. We have, because they're screwing us. We have the Democrats on one side, and in their favor, they always coalesce. Listen, Ted Kennedy was the greatest thing since sliced bread. The guy killed a woman, okay? They always coalesce at the end. Republicans are always good for nothing. They're a bunch of empty suits. Clint Eastwood at the 2012 Republican convention, when he did the whole spoof about Obama being the empty chair. That's what they're never there for us, Jeff. They claim that they're going to be there. They're fighting tooth and nail for us. All this baloney, but when push comes to shove, we're always getting the screw. Always getting the screw.
Oh, you nailed it. Brenda, they fold like a cheap suit. They're all talk, no action. And to me, this debt ceiling deal, Exhibit A. Brenda, thank you very much for that call. Amy in Norton. Amy, I've got a minute. The floor is yours. Go.
Good morning, Jeff. So my children take swim lessons at the Clarion Hotel in Taunton through a private swim school, and they've leased that space for years. And a couple of months ago, we noticed that when driving to and from our swim lessons, there was all these, new people to the area walking back and forth to the dollar store, BJ's Plaza, to the hotel. We noticed there are large groups hanging out in the parking lot. And then all of a sudden the swim school sent out an email saying that for safety reasons, they're going to be locking the pool door now. So I asked the front desk staff about this, and they said, oh, yes, we have migrants in the hotel, but don't worry, honey, they aren't allowed in the pool or the fitness area. Well, Jeff, that doesn't make me feel any better, right? Because they broke the rules when coming to this country illegally, and I'm now to trust that they're going to follow the hotel rule. We don't know who these people are. They could be great, decent people. They could be the complete opposite. I don't feel comfortable in that space anymore. I have my husband come with us now to our swim lessons. It's terrible what's going on.
Amy, I've only got 30 seconds left. Why don't you just pull your kids out of that swim class, go somewhere else?
Me too. Absolutely going to.
It's not worth the risk.
No, it's not. No.
Amy, thank you very much for that call. And tell me, if these are, such good, decent people, the dreamers, why are they so worried about them going after children in swimming lessons? Why? Because they haven't been vetted. They don't know who these people are. Bye-bye.